Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the In Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I'm doing a review and comparison of the best sounding version of Black Sabbath's debut LP from 1970, the self-titled Black Sabbath. So the recent Rhino Hi-Fi kind of inspired me to do this. The recent Rhino Hi-Fi was all analog, cut by Kevin Gray from the Warner master tapes. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I had enough of these records on the shelf that I have been able to put this video together. Now, I will tell you, over the years, I've kind of culled some stuff that I've deemed inferior. And I kind of going to tell you guys about those, but I'm not really going to show them to you because I've gotten rid of them at this point. I've had them, don't have them anymore. And those are the later, for instance, US Palm Tree label Warner titles, the later UK NEMS, for instance, and subsequent UK pressings. I've always either said, well, if I'm going to do US, this is better. If I'm doing a UK, I like this better. I've done like little miniature shootouts over the years, and I've eliminated a lot of those titles. So I'm going to start with, I've got about 6 or 7 to show you guys. And I'm going to start with a title that is not particularly good sounding, but I've kept it because it has a lot of cool bonus features. So this came out in 2016. This was pressed at QRP, really quiet, nice vinyl. This is kind of interesting in the sense it's somewhat similar to the Rhino Hi-Fi in the sense that, well, production, cosmetically, it says Black Sabbath on the front and it has these inserts. But other than that, there's not much difference. Okay, so check this out. This is kind of nifty because the Rhino Hi-Fi has a copy of the Warner tapes. This 2016 Rhino pressing actually has a picture of the original master tapes. So yeah, disc 1, which is that actual album, has the inner sleeve. It comes in a black polyline sleeve. And then disc 2, which is the bonus material, actually has Real 2 artwork. Black and white, I'm not really sure why they did that. I'm not sure why they couldn't get a photocopy of the album together. That's kind of interesting. But, here's the album itself. But I've always kept this, not because I've dug the sound of this. The sound is pretty bad. This is actually almost unlistenable bad. It's cut kind of low compared to the other pressings I'm about to talk about. And one thing that I'll tell you about all of the European pressings in general, as a whole, and this suffers from it the worst, is they tend to lack top end. They are, definitely lacking in the top end. So this is lacking in the top end, but another problem with this album as a whole, it's not a very bass-heavy record. And this particular pressing is lacking in the low end. So Tony doesn't kind of maybe dislike this particular version because it really emphasizes that middle range, So it does do justice to the guitar and to Ozzy's vocals, but poor Bill and Geezer are kind of left in the cold on this particular one. I don't really recommend this, other than the bonus tracks, which are quite cool. There's studio outtakes, instrumentals, studio outtakes, alternate versions. I mean, it's a cool companion piece to the actual version you would normally listen to. So I put it pretty low on my list, but it's a record that I've not been able to get rid of because of the bonus tracks. Okay. This particular record, a lot of people don't realize this, but Ron McMaster at Capitol Records actually cut this for Rhino from the original master tape. I want to say this was in maybe 2012. And by the original master tape, more than likely it was the Warner tape. The Warner tape is not the original master tape. Keep in mind the US version of this record came out after the UK, but it was also, the track listing was different. And it was more than likely like a one-to-one tape made off of the master, but it's a weird combination because 2 separate labels have rights, I guess, to it. I guess Warner has rights to it here in the United States. Vertigo, or whatever parent company owns them now, has rights to it in the United Kingdom. So really bizarre, but I'm guessing, you know, the original hype sticker said it was cut from the original master tape. More than likely, it was cut from the original Warner master tape. Yeah. No Evil Woman on the US pressing. But anyways, when did this come out? 2012. I want to say it was 2012. Unfortunately, the shrink is missing from mine. The hype sticker is missing from mine. But cut at the Tower, at Capitol, I believe. I believe it was cut at the Tower. I think Ron was working there at the time. But yeah, cut by Ron in 2012. Okay, so you would think all analog, cut from the master tape, going to sound pretty good. It doesn't. It is, unlike the QRP press, but you know, technically they just pressed it. It's a Rhino title, the first one I showed you. This is missing the upper end, the high-end frequency. Better bass, really a wonky sounding presentation. When you're familiar mentally with other stuff that's out there, you're really going to be off put by both of these. It is kind of, you know, we're really splitting hairs because truth be told, this is not a very good sounding record. It's not audiophile by any stretch of the imagination. Iconic, you know, it's like the birth of heavy metal. You know, I would say before this we had hard rock, but we didn't have heavy metal. This is like the birth of heavy metal. This is the first heavy metal record, really. I mean, people might disagree with that, but I'm going to say this is it. This was kind of what put heavy metal on the map, was this Black Sabbath record. But it's not really well recorded. There's a little essay in the Rhino Hi-Fi that kind of talks about they were using 2 4-track tape machines. They were bouncing things back and forth, kind of like what would have been done on Sgt. Pepper originally. You know, record a drums and bass, mix it down, put each on a track, you know what I mean, to kind of get more things going, to be able to mic more instruments, mic more things, and get them on a 4-track tape. You would essentially, you know, you can mic a drum set with 4 mics and then mix it down to one of the tracks on, for instance, the second tape deck, which is a 4-track machine. But anyways, in that Rhino Hi-Fi, they talk about all this bouncing back and forth. You have to consider, they feel like the master tape is a 4th generation master tape, essentially, you know what I mean? Because you're making a copy of a copy of a copy. So all the bounce down, I think it mentioned it was 4th generation. So that's the master tape. Then you got to think the lacquer was cut from the master over, you know, in the United Kingdom. So now we're on the 5th generation. So that's the lacquer. Then we have a father, 6th generation. Then we have a mother, 7th generation. Then we have a stamper, 8th generation. And then we have the record you're listening to, which is the 9th generation. That's a lot of generations removed. So it's not a great sounding record to begin with. And then if you come over to the US, which again was using a 1-to-1 safety, put all that in the middle, you're now at the 10th generation is what you're experiencing at home. So not exceptionally well recorded. It was rushed. It was a rushed recording, essentially. Not really well recorded. And this isn't Steely Dan's Asia. This isn't a sonic marvel by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, you know, this is a lot better than Steely Dan's Asia. But that's just my opinion. A lot of people might not agree with that. But sonically, not the greatest sounding record. Musically, like, the highest marks you could possibly give a record. It's an amazing record. And anyways, this particular version of the record has serious high-end frequency issues. They're like missing. They're gone. It kind of sounds like...
Powerful healing angelic frequency. High-level consciousness by Mindfulness Meditation World on Apple Music.
You hear that? Sirius stalking me. High frequency's missing. It's not very good of a listen. Really solid mid-range, better low end, but yeah. So now we're going to get into some of the European pressings. I'll start with this German Vertigo. Love the cover. You know, laminated cover. Everybody loves the iconic Vertigo swirl. There's something special about this spinning on your turntable. You know, just, yeah, awesome, right? So, like I said, there's high-end frequency on this, more so compared to the Ron McMaster cut 2012 from the analog tape. but not that much more. And it is kind of interesting in the sense that for a lot of years, the Vertigos were my go-to. And with this particular video, I kind of changed, well, obviously there's a new record here to talk about, but for the most part, I've changed my mental thinking on all of these records and how they sounded, because I've listened to them, what was it, maybe 22 times, 23 times. I listened to Black Sabbath a lot today, and it wasn't tiring. I listened to this record about 22 times today. There's a good possibility I could get in my car, go grab a sandwich, and put it on and listen to it again. It's really good. It's a good record. Anyways, you've got a little bit better end frequency, high end frequency with this. Beautiful mid-range. Bass is a little bit lacking. I mean, yeah, for as much as these records go for, any Vertigos, I'm going to say, yeah, don't buy this. Don't buy this. And God, my go-to copy for years and years and years, this beautiful UK Vertigo copy, don't buy this either. I'm real shocked to say this. I'll never sell my beautiful UK Vertigo pressings. I got 2 of them, actually. Maybe I'll sell 1. But I definitely won't sell both of them, even though I don't know if I'll ever listen to these again. Now, yeah, that was quite shocking. This, for a lot of years, was my go-to copy that I would listen to. But when I compared it against my US first pressing, which is made from a safety tape, but cut out artisan, one of the best mastering facilities of all time, I was blown away how much better this sounded to this. And ironically enough, I had this sitting in my shelf forever. I probably had this record for 15, 20 years. This is a minty, beautiful copy. I mean, the jacket is minty. The record is minty. Look at this. I mean, no ring wear. Look how clean that is. Looks like it was made yesterday. What the heck was that? Yeah, all right. So anyways, it looks like it was made yesterday. Sat on my shelf for years. And the Vertigo was really just mentally where I always went with this record. I was very wrong. This artisan sounds fantastic in comparison to all these other ones. And if you are watching this video from the US, hell, if you're watching this video from Europe, it's probably cheaper to buy this first press US artisan copy, probably most places in the world, than it is to be able to buy the iconic Vertigo pressing. But this is better in so many ways. The soundstage is wider. The upper end frequencies are so much better. It's cut a little bit louder. But the one thing you really notice is Bill's drum kit just kind of comes alive. You can kind of hear him playing not only the kick drum and the toms, but when you listen to the artisan cut of this record, you realize, like, wow, there are cymbals on this record. Wow, you can hear the decay of the crash cymbals and the ride cymbal, you know, that brass decay that's present when you tap any type of piece of brass in real life and you listen to it, it rings out. And that is available on the green Warner. Now, you're not going to find this clean. And I'd be willing to say that maybe a clean first pressing of this is probably a couple $100. I'm guessing, because it has been a very, very long time since I've seen a mint one of these things in the wild. This record is always trashed. It is always cover wear, seam splitting, you know, white powder in the grooves. This record was partied with. I don't know what the hell this guy was doing when he bought this copy. But whoever bought my copy of this record didn't listen to it. Maybe he was under the impression, like I was for all these years, that the Vertigo was the way to go. That is not the case. Artisan knocked it out of the park with a one-off safety master with this particular record. Now, that leads me into the Rhino Hi-Fi. I'll talk about this a little bit more. I love this particular series of records. I've griped about the Rhino Hi-Fi stuff. I've had issues with shipping. I had issues with shipping on this one. I'll talk about some of this stuff in a future video. But this series is a godsend. It is all, the series in general so far has been all analog, all cut by Kevin Gray, all from the original master tape, although this is technically the safety tape, the master tape for Warner. I guess it can be considered, since it has a different track listing, the master tape for the US release. So I'll give that to them. That's fair. But big, fat, thick, high gloss Stoughton cover. They all come, with details as far as, essays and how the record came to be, information from the artists. They're all somewhat different, but beautiful color photographs of the master tape. Look at that, lacquer cut at Artisan. And like I said, what a hell of a job they did. But yeah, so you've got the front and back of the master tape. Hugh Gilmore kind of talks about, there's a Q&A in here about the making of the album. So very, very cool. So how does Kevin do with an album that wasn't that well recorded to begin with? Well, it's pretty damn good. When I first listened to this, the very first time I've listened to this album in a long time, really, it's probably been a year or two since I played this record, oddly enough, but I got a lot of records. I put this on, and at first I'm like, that's okay, And I thought to myself, I bet you my Vertigo is better. That was like my first mental go-to. I'm like, I feel like my Vertigo was better. There's not a ton of bass in this, and I don't know about the upper end. It's funny, though, how your mind can kind of play tricks on you, and you can succumb to your own biases from just things you've thought and have thought for years. But this, for me, listening to all these records was, again, really eye-opening, because I played this, and I'm like, okay, it's good, I'm rocking. But then I started playing other copies, and I was like, whoa, oh, God almighty, what's going on here? I'm like, boy, this record is not as good as I remember it being sonically. But, yeah, Kevin, so I'll say this right off the bat, Kevin knocked it out of the park with this. This is mastered in the vein of the Artisan copy. It really, truly is. If I was to say Kevin was listening to any of these records that I have here and was looking for something to master it off of, it wasn't the Vertigos. It wasn't the Ron McMaster. It wasn't Palm Tree labels. It wasn't any of those. It was the Artisan pressing, because this is the closest I've heard to it. But the upper end frequencies are just a little bit better. They're a little bit more lush. There's a little bit more decay. The soundstage is actually also a little bit wider. So rather than the band kind of playing here, they're kind of playing just, here. It's not earth-shattering, but it's a little bit wider, and the vocals are just a little, there's that grit. You ever listen to old records in general from the 70s and the 80s, and it's just like, people always use the analogy, there's a wet blanket sound. It's not any of that. It's just there's a little bit of like grit and grittiness that just accompanies some of these records. It doesn't matter what system you play it on, what cartridge, none of that matters. It's just kind of like a little bit present. And I just kind of write that off to maybe the gear that was available in 1970 compared to what we have 54 years later. And keep in mind, the gear that they had in 1970 might as not have been the gear that was made in 1970. Some of that gear might have been 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. So some of this stuff we might be listening to is the difference between 60 years ago and today. And I kind of write it off to that. I've heard Kevin's system. I went to Coherent, and it is spectacular. And it is a customized system by Kevin and tuned with about, God, maybe he's been doing this for 50 years. Now, I'm not going to tell you that this wipes the floor with the Artisan. It really doesn't. And if you have a clean, minty Artisan, what I pay, this record's sold out, unfortunately. They only make 5,000, which is, 5,000 copies of Herbie Hancock's Crossing. Okay. Probably that's fine. 5,000 copies of Black Sabbath self-title, that's probably not good. What if they did something else from the Warner catalog, the Atlantic catalog, like Led Zeppelin? You could do Led Zeppelin at 5,000. They do Led Zeppelin at 5,000. This is going to be a $800 record, the very first person that gets it shipped to them. It'll be nuts. Hopefully something like that doesn't happen. I'm not saying it's even going to happen, but I'm just thinking out loud of some of the stuff that is available to them in the Warner catalog. Things that are kind of within their wheelhouse, within their possibility, right? Obviously, they're not, Warner isn't going to be able to license, they're doing their own stuff. They're not going to do Sony stuff. They're not going to do Universal stuff. But those are titles that are in the Warner wheelhouse. Can you imagine only 5,000 copies? That would be sad. But would I run out and pay $150 for this? It kind of depends. Is it a record that I really love? I would go out and do it. Is it just a casual listen? Every so often, you're probably good if you have a minty artisan pressing. But truth be told, who the hell has mint artisan pressings? They're rare, man. I own a record store, and I got to tell you, maybe one or two have come in 10 years. It is not a really easy record to find clean. Most people played the record. So, yeah, I mean, this, to be able to just buy, I know it's $150, but you're going to buy a sealed copy of this for $150. You're going to play it, and it's going to be mint out of the packaging more than likely, and you're not going to have any issues. You could probably buy 10 of those US first pressings online, and people tell you they're mint and they're wonderful. And unfortunately, dealers a lot of times are not honest and trustworthy, and everybody always grades their own records to the moon because they don't want to be analytical over their own stuff. You know what I mean? So who knows how many of those copies you're going to have to find one that's a truly mint copy. I don't know, but here you have a copy that sounds better. And it's, if I was to say, between 1 and 10, if the artisan pressing best sounding was like an 8, I would send this as like one number higher. Or if that was a 9, this would be 1. It's better. It's not, holy cow, this is a new record better, but it is better. Everything is just a little bit better. It's like 10% better than the artisan, which is, blow me away. God, especially for an older record, which don't always sound better. It's so much better. I was blown away how much better it is than this beautiful Vertigo. But kind of stuff happens, and one of the reasons I like to keep a good library of records is because I don't have to stick with my thoughts on what I think over the next past 20 years. I can kind of go back and I can reevaluate things, and yeah, I'm blown away. This is fantastic. This is a fantastic record. I am sad that it only stayed in print for a couple of days, and then it was sold out on Rhino's website. It's even more of a bummer you can only get it directly from them. People had this a couple of weeks, the reviewers, but I bought mine. I bought all, I've not gotten anything from Rhino. I've bought every record in the series, and I've been blown away. So this would be my go-to copy. This is my number one sounding, best sounding copy of this record. I think even at this price, for now, I think it could potentially be a more expensive record. But for $150, this is a no-brainer. I know it sucks. It's $150. This is the number one best sounding record of this title, and this artisan I would say is number 2. The Green Label Warner Brothers, right? And although I would say it's still distant, but out of everything that I've heard, and again I've compared this years ago, I would go back to the later pressings of these, and it wasn't even close. And that's saying something considering this is so much farther behind that. So I would say in first place, the Rhino Hi-Fi. In second place, the US first pressing. And in maybe fifth place, leaving out of third and fourth place, because this really doesn't seem to, I don't think it's fair to put this in the same category as those other two. But in the fifth place, skipping third and fourth place, I'd put the original UK Vertigo, which unfortunately I have 2 of. Not unfortunately, because it's an iconic record, but I don't know. I'll probably have this in the shop before long. Maybe. I don't know. I'll get around to it someday, but don't call me. It's not going to be tomorrow. But yeah, there's no sense in having 2 copies of a title that is quite a bit worse than these. I'm really shocked. In my mind, of reality that Vertigo is the one to, like, I'm wondering if I'm off on that too. Maybe a future shootout video is coming soon. All right, that's it for this Black Sabbath self-titled shootout. You can shop online at our website at theingroove.com. Until next time.